All right, Josh, before we get the pain started here, I think it's only fair that you have a chance to get your licks in. You have an anecdote to tell me, don't you?
Yeah. Also, hi, Rutskarn. Welcome to the show where I'm
all that's
sick.
taken is red. All that's taken is red, Joshua.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So they know that this is actually something that we recorded.
Yes. It's assumed that this is recorded and that we're not, speaking to them. Okay.
We're not in the room with them. Okay.
No.
I understand.
Or car.
Or wait.
Or park.
How does this work again?
Wherever. Tell me the anecdote, Josh.
Right. So, you've been gone a couple weeks, and I haven't had a chance to. Well, not you haven't been gone a couple weeks, but you haven't been on the show, and we've been on vacation and whatnot. So watching the last Horror Attic was really uncanny. Because I fucking lived in that house, like
that
no
floor
joke,
plan.
That not like just that floor plan, like physical details. It's not exactly the same. Like it wasn't obviously made from like a photo walkthrough of my house, but like that is almost identical to the physical layout of the house that I lived in when I was like 12. That was really weird. Like everything in my house is a little bit larger, although maybe I'm just remembering it that way because I was 12 and like 4 feet tall. But
now,
like,
would you, if you had to guess here, would you say that would make the experience of running away from ghosts more or less scary in the video game? If you like,
I feel like I know where to hide better.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, all the ghost hiding spots. You've hid from ghosts in the house. Your ghost was slightly larger. Maybe your ghost was flocked or had different accents.
It was northern New York, northwestern New York, so maybe, a bit of a little weird accent, a little weird New Englandish accent going on, Canadian. The other weird thing about living in northwestern New York is that I was like 15 miles away from Niagara Falls, and none of my friends had ever been there. Like, it just didn't go anywhere at all. Like, no traveling, never been to, like, New York City, never been out of the state.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with me, Josh. That is genuinely very interesting. You should try the game. It's pretty cheap, and it's a really good horror game.
Yeah, it looked better than I expected from the history of the last couple of indie horror attics that you've been doing.
Yeah, certainly it beats Clown House in terms of polish.
Did any of those clowns ever actually have the ability to hurt you in that game?
Not one of them. I have
you were
determined
just murdering clowns.
Yeah, which I frankly, I have no regrets. I will go to St. Peter just with absolutely no reservations. Say, yeah, I capped a few clowns. I think Jesus was probably fine
for not murdering enough.
I've determined from anecdotal evidence that, apparently the clowns do attack sometimes, but I couldn't make it happen. For love or money, I could not get a clown to shank me.
Well, I guess that's a pretty successful horror experience. You scared the clowns.
Josh. Speaking of scaring the clowns, Josh, we are going to while away this evening without the rest of the team. I thought we might play a little nice Dungeons and Dragons. What do you say to that?
I have reason to suspect that nice is not the word that I will end up using to describe this experience, but, sure.
You would not be entirely wrong. I've determined that we should play a small adventure. Some details will be yours to determine. Some will be mine to determine. Tell you what, let's just roll right into it here. We're gonna be playing second edition Dungeons and Dragons, which is an edition released in 1989.
The most horrific one.
Yep. It is a slight improvement on an embellishment of the AD&D system, which, and in modern respects, it's basically about as intuitive as like a Soviet submarine.
Yeah, this is the version with Thaco.
Yes, which, if you have not seen the video where Rutskarn explains Thaco to Mumbles, just search that right now. It's really amazing.
It's called
we did not create
Thaco
that video.
Warning, and I'll link it in the... well, we created the audio for it, and then someone took that and put it over a sufficiently 80s movie.
Yes, that was at Zagglezig, or Jake something or other that did that. Anyway,
yeah, that was really cool.
So, moving on. This is actually, believe it or not, one of my favorite editions of Dungeons & Dragons. Not because of Thaco and other similarly, objectively obsolete mechanics, but because this was one of the great unbalanced systems. Like, you talked a little bit about how...
It has a certain charm.
Yeah. Like, you talked a little bit about how, like, sort of the broken shit in Bethesda games actually kind of was what made them fun.
Yeah, on Twitter I went into a long diatribe about game balance and the a push more recently towards making games basically balanced so that, most builds end up with the same amount of power. That wasn't, as I understand it, really a design goal that anyone went into the creation of D&D 2nd Edition with any kind of thought in mind.
Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition and the previous editions were very much made to provide exciting adventures. And in this context, exciting was meant to mean your hero has a slightly higher percentage chance of surviving than the average war game unit. It is possible in almost every edition of Dungeons and Dragons to die as the result of a single die roll, but in 2nd edition that was reveled in, and it was considered commonplace to create characters that are not ultimately very heroic. And speaking of which, why don't we make you some characters, Josh? Now, right now, I have a poll running on Twitter, which is whether I'm going to be coming up with an adventure or running one of my several pre-made adventures for for early editions of D&D. I think they're actually technically for AD&D, but they're easily adapted. But before we get to the results of that, you're going to make a choice right now, which is going to have a deep impact on how this thing goes. You ready?
All right.
Okay, here's your choice. You're going to have 3 characters. And the choice is, are you going to randomly generate them, or are you going to get pre-made characters from the adventure I'm holding in my hands right here? And I should warn you, each of these choices has a terrible, unforeseen consequence. And I won't tell you what they are until you've picked.
I have a suspicion that I know what the terrible consequence is if I generate them, and I dig that. So let's go with I'll generate new characters.
I was really hoping you'd say that. Okay.
Also, because pre-generated 2nd edition characters tend to be really boring.
Right. Well, technically these are AD&D characters, but again, it's easily converted.
So
I'll just go ahead
between the two, to be honest. I don't know
I'll just go ahead
worth taking the time to explain.
It isn't. It really isn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and confirm, I believe, your suspicions. So the consequence for choosing pre-made characters would be that you wouldn't choose pre-made characters. You would choose to have pre-made characters, and then I would pick from the list what you get. I was really leaning towards the, all halfling party, but that's neither here nor there. For the nerds out there, the adventure I was holding in my hands was Dungeon Module N1 against the Cult of the Reptile God. Instead, you chose to generate your own characters, and I think you definitely knew what the consequence is, which is not only are you going to be rolling your stats straight down, meaning you don't get to choose which numbers go where, you're going to be rolling 3d6 straight down, meaning that your characters will be almost certainly worse than the ones that were in this book. You ready, Josh?
So, am I, like, this is the way you were originally supposed to do it, isn't it? Like, none of this stat point buying shit.
I can't answer that question entirely. I have not had access to the earliest D&D materials, and they're even hard to get online. But I will say that there's definitely a bias towards this kind of rolling in early editions and in early groups. So the second edition Player's Handbook does suggest other methods of dice rolling, but it doesn't really like present this front and center with the fear that you won't take it. Like present the 46 dice rolling with the fear you won't take it. So anyway, yeah, just go ahead and roll your straight, like, average people characters right now. And I think Brock Jones Dice Roller actually has a really useful feature where you can just roll an entire, like, attribute stat set of 3d6. So just go ahead and use that. And write them down and get back to me when they are written down.
So we've got 6 attributes, right? So we're rolling 6 3d6.
Yes, and again, there's a stat roller option, so you just like set that to 3d6.
Oh, okay,
and
stat roll.
Yeah.
Okay, 3d6 strict, I believe is what we want. Yeah.
Right.
We don't want to use highest because that would give me an advantage.
That would, yes.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. So, that's actually an interesting roll.
Okay, get something to record your characters here because I'm not going to for you.
Yeah, here. I don't know if I want to open Excel for this. I'm just gonna open fucking Notepad. Okay.
There you go. That's what these characters deserve. That's about their lifespan here. Just like you go to Death's Realm, he's got your whole life story in a Notepad document.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even saved anywhere. It's just an open Notepad document. You know,
he's like, oh, you know how Notepad plus updates. He's like, you know how Notepad plus will like sort of save a copy of it without you actually having to save it.
Yeah, exactly. So should I read this off, or should I generate 3 of these?
Generate all 3, and then we'll get to it. Okay. Do you know what order the stats are in? Or if not, I'll just tell you at the end, and you can sort of match them up.
No, I'm just recording the rolls here. I think I know where most of it is, but I can't remember exactly.
Well, yeah, just roll all the stats, and then I'll tell you what order they go in.
Yeah, the RPG I've been playing recently is Pillars of Eternity, and they use a different stat order. So
I swear to God, Pillars of Eternity and Tyranny, it's like they made it just complicated enough that you can't actually follow it as a person.
Yeah, it's kind of shit. To be honest, I don't like the combat in Pillars of Eternity at all. And I actually my first campaign in Tyranny literally ended like 45 minutes in, and that's including the time that you spend figuring shit out on the character creator, because I died in the second encounter and had to restart from the initial autosave of you are through the character creator, and I was like, fuck this.
I actually was enjoying it, and then Mumbles on the show came in with a random spoiler, and plug your ears for Tyranny here. It's not actually a major spoiler. It's saying something that doesn't happen. She pointed out that there was no like character like romance endings or anything, like that there was no like relationships with characters, which is something I felt like was kind of being teased.
That's a hard rule that Obsidian has had for forever, and it's really annoying.
I know.
But I feel like it was a Chris Avalon rule, and since he's not there anymore, maybe that'll change with like Pillars of Eternity 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So it actually wasn't quite that straightforward. Like I pulled that thread and found out that like it was just kind of generally disappointing, and I ultimately was like, yeah, you know what? I actually don't know what I'm sticking around for. I like it. It's cool, but like I don't really need to know how the story ends.
Yeah, I haven't actually finished either one. I am working my way through a Pillars of Eternity campaign, and I bought the DLC expansion bit, Bastard's Wound, for tyranny, and my plan is just kind of roll right into that when I'm done with Pillars of Eternity. Yeah, tyranny and Pillars of Eternity. I just realized those two words sound very similar. I'm loopy. Anyway, I'm gonna do that. It's probably gonna be horrible. I'm done with my characters. These are some really interesting. I've got one character that's actually decent. That's actually really decent. And everything else is total crap. I think I've got an idea in mind for two of these characters. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the third one.
Did you confirm the stat order, or should I just roll it off for you real quick?
It's strength, dex, con, int, wisdom, charisma, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So first character, 9 strength, 11 dex.
By the way, I should point out to any layman in the room, like 10 or 11 is about normal, about a normal.
Yeah,
person
10 is like your +0 roll. Actually, 11 is also +0 because it goes by every 2 points. Which those
are in later, better designed, standardized editions. But yes.
Oh, really? Okay. So we don't even have the bonuses codified. Oh. Great. Excellent.
No,
wow.
motherfucker. I'm looking at a table right here, table 1 strength, and it's got for each ability score range, it has hit probability, damage adjustment, weight allowed, max press, open doors, bend bars, lift gates, which is a percentage roll. And then a section for notes.
So I can lift the gate a percentage depending on how much I roll.
Yeah, you have a 9 strength. Your bend bars lift gates percentage is 1.
Excellent.
Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, okay, so balance down the gain of my microphone. Kind of clip a little bit. Let's start over here. Okay, so 9 strength, 11 dexterity, 10 constitution, 15 intelligence. That's a really prodigious roll with your 3d6 strict. 14 wisdom.
Oh boy.
And 16 charisma.
Wow. This person actually is genuinely gifted. This person is if you are a spellcaster and you survive long enough, you can get up to almost 75% of the way through the spell tree.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be my wizard / party leader. Seems to be the obvious choice.
In fact,
here.
You might actually qualify, and this is ball-bustingly hard in this edition, but you might actually qualify for a specialist wizard. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, what's the specialist wizard that's charisma?
Enchanter.
Oh. Enchanter is negative invoker, so no fireballs, but right. Okay, yeah, so character 2, because we'll get back to that in a second. Character 2, 13 strength, not too bad. 11 dexterity, 8 constitution,
not too bad.
13 intelligence, 8 wisdom, and 12 charisma.
Right there, that is actually a decent ass character. I should tell you, I'm running a game right now where the characters are up to level 12, and they're fighting Lolth in the Abyss, and literally not one of the motherfuckers has a stat above 13, I don't think. And for literally also, the highest constitution of the party is 10, and then the rest of the party is 5, 5, 6.
Yeah. I feel like this is probably going to be my fighter.
Yeah, that's your fighter right there. And what is the next
crap? But oh well.
What is the next character?
The next character is 12 strength. Oh god, what am I even going to do this? 5 dexterity.
That's actually low enough. So this game, this edition of the game, like your stats don't matter unless they're extreme for the most part. That is actually extreme enough that you start taking penalties to things like using ranged weapons.
Yeah. 11 Constitution, 13 Intelligence, and 9 Wisdom, and 6 Charisma.
6 Charisma, wow.
This
So
is like...
clumsy and unpleasant.
Yeah.
You know what? What strikes me is that nobody in your party is stupid. Everyone in your party is like,
Yeah.
you know, they might not have like 100% common sense.
Is the lowest
13
int that I've got. It's nuts. It is a undergraduate university student party, and they all hang out together, and one of them happens to be like
the TA.
Really clumsy, like, you know, can fall down stairs from the ground floor, kind of clumsy, and kind of smells really bad. Okay.
Now I'm looking here, and I think that most of your characters qualify for most races. So I think that there's only like a couple of your characters where like, oh, you know, that they would be disqualified from choosing this race because of stats. Yeah, that's a thing that happens in this edition. So I'm gonna rattle off the
Mr. Smells Bad probably can't be an elf.
I believe, yeah. Oh, yep. No, that's the case. You cannot be an elf. So I'm gonna rattle off the races here and let me know if any of them stand out for any of your characters. Dwarf, elf, gnome, half-elf, halfling, and of course human.
I
also have my book of humanoids, but nobody wants me to drag that out.
No. So what I can't even remember what the bonus is. Like half elf is pretty much only for doing like wacky multi-class stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, although they're really not strictly worse than humans in almost any respects in this edition.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
the
only thing humans have going... So there's 2 different ways to multi-class in D&D 2, and it's weird.
Oh boy, is there, and I could never keep them straight for love or money.
So, normal multi-classing is you are 2 different classes at once, and you gain experience with each class. Like, the experience that you get is split evenly between each class, and you level up each class.
Like you're 2 different characters in one character.
Yeah,
basically.
So you basically develop really slowly, to the point that it's almost never actually worth it to have a multi-class character, because it takes forever to get like off the ground. But you are effectively the advantages and disadvantages of both of those classes at once. And then if you're human, you can't multi-class, but you can dual class. So basically what that is you start out as one class, and then at some point midway through, switch to a different class, and then that becomes your class for the rest of the game. But you keep the stuff that you had in the first class, and then just level up that other class.
Can I just say I'm really impressed at how straight you managed to keep that. And I also want to say, multi-class sounds dumb, but what you forget here is that you're in this edition, if you're not a human, you've usually got a pretty strict level cap. Like, you've got a low ceiling on how high level you can get, and each level is exponentially more XP. So, you know, I've got a game where, like, like the game I was just talking about, most people are one class, and then there's a kobold with, like, shit stats who comes in, fighter thief. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And plus, also, he came in, like, halfway through the campaign, and I'm like, I'm gonna go Old Testament on your ass. You're starting at level 1. Even though everybody's much higher level than you, and you have no equipment. He was lagging behind for most of the game, and then everybody hit the cap, and guess what? He has capped out in 2 classes now, and he's up there. He's making it happen. Everybody else got to the finish line first, but when he arrived in style.
Yeah, so a lot of the multi-class / dual class stuff that you can do is actually just like totally worthless. Like, You know, who wants to be a multi-class wizard thief? Nobody. There's literally nothing that you can do with that. But dual classing especially, you can make some really, really broken shit. And that was my favorite thing to do in Baldur's Gate 1. My favorite build was a human fighter mage that went like 4 or 5 levels of fighter and then switched over to a conjurer and was basically god and could run around wearing heavy armor and hitting stuff with a sword and being basically really, really good at not dying to anything in melee, and also just kill everything with spells because wizards are stupid broken in this. After level 5.
Yeah, at some point it very quickly becomes the wizard and the wizard's bodyguards.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the other fun thing about my my high level party. They don't have a wizard.
Oh, good.
Nobody's smart enough. They're a fighter thief, a thief, a fighter, and a cleric.
Yeah.
And the cleric does not have
cleric.
The cleric does not have the wisdom also to cast any spells above, I think, 5th level. So that's also fun.
I want to make a druid thief. I don't even know if druid can multi-class, actually. A bunch of weird restrictions on what can multi-class and what races can do which multi-class and all that kind of nonsense.
You can multi-class into druid if you're a half-elf. Please don't ask me any more about this. Anyway.
Yeah, so my party, let's start
any non-humans
working this out. Why don't we make the wizard character? Let's make her an elf. Just for them sweet elf bonuses that I don't actually remember.
I'll keep track of them. I'm keeping track of almost everything for you, Josh.
I will spare you from any wacky multi-class nonsense. I think this is the only character that could do it, but actually no, she doesn't hit the prime requisites in like strength, dex, or con to do any kind of useful multi-class with that anyway. So
no, you're gonna want to go full wizard anyway because, like I said, you qualify for enchanter.
Yeah.
And you can become an enchanter as an elf too, so you're good for that.
Yeah, I don't think I qualify for any of the. What one uses wisdom?
What was your wisdom?
Is there even one? 14, which I don't think is high.
No,
enough,
no. If you had a 15 or a 16, you would qualify for 3 different schools. But no, sorry.
Oh. Oh well. Yeah, enchanter. Yeah, so the way specialist mage classes work in 2nd edition is that you get 1 extra spell per level, which is really, really good. Because remember, this is a per rest thing. Old D&D here.
Yeah, and like you get 1 spell a day basically. So this is 2 spells.
Yeah, but you get locked off from opposing schools to whatever the school that you picked was. Like, so being an enchanter or an enchantress, I guess in this case, because I decided it was a woman, doesn't like make you better at using enchantment spells. It just means that you can't use spells that are opposed to enchantment. It's weird.
It does. You do get a bonus to saving throws against it. You get a bonus to learning the spell. And when you level, you automatically get new spells. By the way, you said school. I should clarify. Schools. As an enchanter, you are barred from necromancy and evocation. Or invocation. It literally cannot decide. It actually says here in the book.
Kind of like...
It actually says here in the book, invocation/evocation.
Yeah, they never really figured out which one they wanted to use. Necromancy is kind of eh. Like, what have you got in necromancy? Like chill touch.
Eventually, you get the bone
skeleton raising nonsense. Yeah. But Evoker is the one that does all the fireball shit. So no magic missiles.
What's life without a challenge?
chromatic orb is like conjure, so I can still like do that, I guess.
We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So let's address your other characters real quick. So the dwarf. So you've got a fighter. Want to make that fighter a dwarf? I think you can take dwarf.
Yeah, provided he has the con for that.
Oh wait, what's your constitution?
It's 8
on the fighter. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to get your hopes up. You do qualify
what the fuck
for
can
elf.
I make the fighter?
I think. What's your other low stat with the fighter?
Wisdom. Also 8.
If everything else is 8 or higher, you're good for elf.
It's 13, 11, 8, 13, 8, 12.
Yeah, you're fine.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. You know what? You could actually be a gnome or, let's see. Wait, you had a. Okay, no, you could not be a halfling. You're not tough enough to be a halfling, Josh. I'm sorry. Or you could be a half elf.
What does gnome get?
Gnomes get a +1 to intelligence and a -1 to wisdom.
That's not really. I was thinking they got some sort of like dwarf-ish constitution bonus, but I guess not.
Well, yeah, no. You can also detect grades or slopes in passages, and you add +1 to your attack rolls against kobolds or goblins.
Are gnomes
plus
even
various
still
other
a
random
species
things
in modern D&D?
I'm sorry, what are still a species?
Are gnomes still a species? I feel like they got rolled up into like halfling and dwarf at some point.
I think they're hanging on by a thread.
Not
like
let's
not like
make
a
him a
ladrin.
gnome just for kicks.
Awesome. I have a bunch of shit that I'm gonna have to keep track of. I'm just gonna give you a few like samples just so you know it. Anytime you use magical weapons besides weapons, armor, shields, and illusionist items that duplicate, or anything that duplicates thieving abilities, you have a 20% chance of that magic item just like completely going haywire. You're magic resistant.
Is that just?
But
is that
don't get
because this person is a dwarf or a gnome?
Yeah,
just
that's
dwarf
you're
in my
gnome.
heart.
You can tell about tunneling. You have infravision, which means you detect like heat signatures and infrared. And you can speak the language of woodland creatures.
Oh man, this 12 charisma is gonna get put to a lot of use.
Yep.
Actually,
technically, you can learn the language of woodland creatures if you have.
Oh, okay. I don't know it. All right.
You know what? I'm not going to bother with proficiency. So yeah, we're going to say you can talk to animals. That's your proficiency.
All right. Cool. Yeah. No need to go through the full campaign setup for that kind of stuff.
Yep. All right, and
do?
Dipshit number 3. We're going to go human. Wait, sorry. What even are you going to do with that guy?
I don't know. Like your traditional party setup would be wizard, fighter, thief, but this dexterity of 5 speaks against that plan.
Sure does. Let's start with what you even qualify for.
What can I even do with a character that can't hit anything?
Okay, well,
it has an armor class of like 25 or something.
Because higher is worse in this edition for layman.
Yes, because higher is worse.
Let's approach this for what classes you qualify for here. So your strength was
12.
Okay, the good news is you can be a fighter. I don't suppose you have a wisdom of 13 and a charisma of 17. You don't qualify for paladin.
No.
You will certainly don't qualify for ranger. What's your intelligence score?
13.
Congratulations, you could be a mage. What's your wisdom?
9.
You could be a cleric. Not a great one, I won't lie to you, but you could be a cleric. And that's it.
Druid requires dexterity, doesn't it?
No,
Or
Druid
is
is
it
Wisdom of 12
higher?
and Charisma of 15.
Druid is always fun because Druid is like a really stupid class in D&D 2.
Oh yeah,
they get
so the leveling system for Druids, besides experience, is March Madness. Once you hit a certain level, you
yeah,
literally need to start like fighting people for the right to level up.
and they're kind of a mishmash class, like Bard is in 2. Bard would have been cool to have, but nobody like first character hit the closest, but I think she needed like a dex of 12.
Yeah, that's precisely the
You
dexterity.
never get Bard when we're doing this, because Bard requires like 12 and then like 14 intelligence and like 17 charisma or some ridiculous nonsense.
I have
like
in
that.
my lifetime rolled 1 bard straight down.
Yeah. And then druids get like druids are kind of useful early on, I think, because they level faster than clerics and have access to healing spells. But
how do you know all
then
this stuff about the edition? This is not common
I
knowledge.
played a bunch of Baldur's Gate, and Baldur's Gate is kind of like learn a bunch of the idiosyncrasies of D&D 2 as we have applied them to a video game for some fucking reason.
That's a good point. That actually all clicks. So this won't go bad.
Yeah. Turning this character into a mage might actually be the smartest choice, but I think we're gonna go cleric because fuck it.
Yeah, okay.
What
what
race do we decide on this guy?
I think human is the obvious choice.
You said it could be a half-elf. I like the idea of a half-elf that has, like, the charisma of a rock. Like,
wait, what's his dexterity? I actually don't think he does
5.
qualify for half-elf. Yeah, no, that's 1 under, I'm sorry.
Nah, he's the boring human sidekick that... Anyone could be a human.
Captain Lame.
Yep. We're gonna call you cannon fodder.
Yup.
What am I even gonna do with this character? This character will die every single time. Can't hit anything. They have no armor class.
Okay, so we've got gnome fighter, elf enchanter, and we've got human cleric.
Yep.
Okay, so can you bring up did you have access to a like Dungeons & Dragons spellbook from 2nd edition perchance? There's a mobile app,
no.
but okay. That's fine. So I'm going to just like have this list of pre-spells here, and we'll figure something out. We're not going to be strictly following every single idiosyncratic rule here. I'm going to be running a lot of it on my end, just to keep things flowing. So, basically, your priest has access to the whole spell list and prepares it at the beginning of the day. So that like he gets like 1 spell and he gets to pick which spell that is, and then he can cast it when it comes up. Pretty much the same with your wizard, except that your wizard has a much smaller selection of spells available, as you know.
Yep, clerics just get the whole kit and caboodle as they level up, and wizards have to learn stuff from scrolls.
All right. Now, in the absence of actually remembering how to determine what spells you can start out with, because I'm not sure that they actually nail down an explicit system for it. I think they actually just like let you figure it out. Although I could be wrong on that. I'm going to have you just bring up a random number generator. You're going to randomly generate 2 spells for your wizard spellbook, and then I'm going to like let you pick an enchantment spell on top of that. So
Okay.
Give me a number between 1 and 45.
That's not something that can easily be rolled here, so I guess I'll just come up with one myself. Let's go with 17.
Why not? 17. Featherfall.
Great. I don't even know what that is, but that doesn't sound good.
It's not bad. I'm not surprised you don't know what it is. It's not particularly relevant to like Infinity Engine games. Featherfall, it's a spell. When you cast it, anything affected by it, which is anything within 10 yards of you, instantly is slowed down for 1 round per level in its falling speed. So, like, If you're plummeting to your death, and you cast the spell, you, like, in the last few feet, you just, like, sort of gently drift down.
Well, I can think of many applications for that spell.
Yep. You can affect 200 pounds plus 200 pounds per level within a 10-foot cube.
Right, great.
Roll again. Speak again.
Let's go with 29.
29. Message.
God damn it.
Yes, you can use
really
message
this,
to send memes to your friends. No, message when the spell's cast. You can whisper messages and receive replies with little chance of being overheard. It lasts 5 rounds, which is to say 50 minutes? No, 5 minutes? 5 minutes, sorry. 5 minutes per level, which is 5 minutes for you. And so how it works is when you cast it, you point at somebody, and you can point to one person per level, again, 1, and then when you whisper, it, like, travels to them, and they can whisper back. There must be an unobstructed path between whoever is communicating.
So my character is, like, a really lame superhero, where, you know, superheroes have the ability to fly and send telepathic messages. My character has the ability to fall slowly sometimes, you know, once, and then rest a bit, and whisper to people.
You're basically correct.
Yeah. And then I get 1 enchanter spell.
Yes, and if you'd like, I can read off the enchantment spells.
Yeah, what are the level 1 enchantment spells?
In rough order, Charm Person, Sleep, Hypnotism. Let's see. I think that's most of them, actually.
What's the difference between sleep and hypnotism?
Hypnotism, like, transfixes somebody until the spell is, like, broken. Sleep, it makes somebody fall asleep. So hypnotism affects 1d6 creatures within an area. They become susceptible to a suggestion or brief or reasonable sounding request that given at the time the spell is cast.
Reasonable sounding, you say? Oh, hey, okay, I got the spellbook installed on my phone here now. And then we've got Charm Person is probably... That seems like the obvious one. And so we'll grab Charm Person, because that's the reason you become an enchanter, or enchantment spells.
Right, and for those of you in the audience, how Charm Person works is basically you cast it and somebody becomes your friend. A good friend of yours, instantly, as long as they fail their save. And that just means what it means.
Running got started.
Basically. What?
So anyway.
You've got so you downloaded the Spellbook app, so you've got access to pre-spells. You got, like, I think you just also have 1 of those per day, so decide what that's going to be before you start. If it's in italics, I don't know how it's organized, but some pre-spells are only for druids. If it looks nature-y, you probably can't cast it. I say that, actually, do you want to be a priest of something specific?
What have I got?
It's up to you. There's no deity list in the game. Basically, it lets you come up with your own domains, and that will severely curtail the amount of spells you'll have access to, but you also get some kind of special ability relevant to your faith.
Character creation's kind of dragged on already for a bit, so let's say no. The spell that I'm going to pick is Cure Light Wounds, because...
Yeah, at a guess, Josh, this is not going to be the only evening that it's just the two of us up here desperately trying to make a podcast. So
well,
it's all for
also
the good.
Like December is just a really fucked month in general for our scheduling stuff. So
it's good to have backups.
Well, we should definitely do something in this adventure rather than just do another character creation episode.
We're going to.
We forgot.
Oh, we're going to. But yes.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Tell you what. Why don't you just take a moment? I think you've mostly got what you need here. Just like come up with a name, like a line of description in terms of like backstory. Let's say 2 sentences apiece, 2 brief sentences apiece, and have a general idea of what equipment they have, and then we'll get started.
Oh, this is always the part that takes me. Fortunately, through the magic of editing, you guys don't have to pay attention to that. So can I get an idea of the setting that we're in general?
What would you like?
Well, you have a module selected.
I'm not running the module. It was voted against.
Oh. So you're coming up with this as we go along. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I mean, we're in classic D&D, so it should probably be something fairly Forgotten Realms-ish. With all of the fun, dumb shit that comes along with that.
Well, let's say like kind of early Renaissance-ish.
Okay. So I like this idea of a bunch of undergraduate students from a university somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Josh, we're gonna come up with your characters this way. All right. It's very simple system. One I highly recommend. This is the only thing of value I extracted from the Mud Syndrome, or Syndome rather.
Actually, I around for like 2 hours and couldn't find anything.
And the sad part is it happened before all that. It's actually some of the best character creation advice I've ever heard. We're gonna go with the 3 Ys. Don't think about it too hard. Just answer like the first thing in your head. I'm gonna you're gonna tell me one thing about your character, one like little random thing, one weird thing, one thing that makes them different than other characters, and I'm going to ask you why. So let's start with your enchantress, right?
Yeah.
So probably the party leader.
Unless I want to do something wacky and have like Misanthrope Man running the party with his charisma of 6, yeah, this is the party leader.
Okay, probably has good prospects, like on paper. Seems like actually would make a very good student, possibly even professor material. Yet they're going out adventuring. Why? Just simple answer. Why?
They're a washed out teacher's assistant.
Okay, great. Why? Simple answer.
They don't know how to organize their spellbook correctly. Yeah.
Do you want to go with that?
I memorized the wrong spells. Whoops.
You want to go with that one?
Yeah, sure. They're really bad at prioritizing things in their fucking their daily planner.
Okay. Why?
Just general reasons, I suppose.
Name one.
They had a childhood trauma where their father ran off with a secretary. Ever since then, they've hated the discipline of record keeping and believe themselves to be above it.
All right, we're going to pencil that in. That is the 3 Ys system
at a university.
Under less absurd circumstances, and I would argue somewhat in this circumstance, it works very well. All right, moving on to dumbass McIntyre. He's pretty shitty at everything, isn't he? He's really unpleasant. Why does he have a charisma of 5?
It's actually 6. Excuse me.
6. What?
I'm not sure if I'm kind of tempted to go into hygiene.
Okay, bad hygiene. Why do you have bad hygiene?
Yeah. Because he is convinced that he's extremely devoted to his god.
Who requires them not to bathe?
Misanthrope. And one of the rituals of this is a very obscure god. Nobody really, there's not actually really a cult to it that much. In fact, the god might not actually be a real god, because he discovered this god when he was like 6 and reading some scrolls in his mother's basement. That may have just been story scrolls, but this god has a very specific hygiene purity procedure that involves daily bathing in vegetable oil.
Okay. Why do you follow that religion?
When he was 16, he managed to completely fall down a flight of stairs that he started at the bottom of, which is a really remarkable feat. But, at that point he was really tired of being prodigiously clumsy and became a horrible misanthrope and remembered this god that he'd read about and said, fuck it, I'm going to worship the god that hates everything.
Okay. And moving on to the gnomish fighter. Okay, you're a gnome and you're a student, but you're trained as a fighter. Why?
Do the gnomes even have fighters?
Nope.
This gnome really wants to be a professional wrestler.
Awesome. Why?
Because I keep going to childhood trauma. When he was 12, he went and saw a human tournament where there were professional wrestlers, and he thought it was really cool. But his dad said, "That's stupid, George." Very gnomish name. But ever since then, he's wanted to be a professional wrestler.
You know what? We are gonna just go with that. I think that's enough. All right, so just come up with a name for each of them, and we're pretty much ready to start.
Well, I already George the gnome. Very gnomish name. It might be an accident of translation, but nobody really knows. The cleric. Let's do something ridiculous. Bogan the Magnificent. Bogan the Magnanimous.
I wouldn't go with
Bogan the Magnanimous, the misanthrope cleric.
Australian redneck.
What was that?
I said I wouldn't go with Bogan because that's actually a word for like an Australian redneck.
Oh, okay. Give me a really posh sounding British name. That is not Cuthbert.
If not Phineas,
Phineas. Okay. Phineas the Magnanimous. It's quite possible that he does not actually understand the definition of the word magnanimous, but, he does have an intelligence of 13, so you never know.
And what about the Enchantress?
Susan.
Susan. I like it.
Yep, just Susan.
Only one more thing left before we just get started here, which is go ahead and with Brock Jones' online die roller, roll me a 4-sided die.
All right. Where did I put that? Here we go. 1d4. 1.
All right, you know what that is, don't you?
A critical miss.
That is Susan's hit points.
Oh, fuck.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, moving right on. Roll 1d10.
2.
Okay, that's George's hit points. And let's see, I think it's D8, but let me go ahead and check here. Yep, roll 1d8.
5. How does this happen?
Oh boy, Phineas has I think 5 hit points. Wait, what's his constitution again?
11.
Yeah, okay. Actually, oh shit. What constitutions do you have again? This is relevant.
Susan is 10, George the Gnome is 8, and Phineas the Magnanimous is 11.
Okay, everybody's over the threshold where they would start losing hit points. Fortunately, because, boy, do you have precious few to spare.
Well, at least the guy with 5 decks got the most hit points. I mean, he could have had 1 HP.
Although
one would wonder how someone so clumsy would have survived into an adulthood with 1 HP. Just find a way to trip on a rock and impale himself.
All right, Josh. So your adventuring party is fresh out of college, or on break, or whatever you have it. By college, we're going to go with semesters. A local university. And
it is very much a community college.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah. Okay, so you're between semesters. Where are you right now?
I don't know. Presumably in the world.
Let's make an easier question. What are your characters eating for dinner right this moment?
Well, they're undergraduate students, so whatever the Renaissance equivalent of microwave ramen is.
But here's the lead into the question. You could come up with anything to fill that in, and using that answer, I will determine where this game will start.
We're gonna say unseasoned porridge.
Okay. You are all crashing in a monastery on the edge of the Ridgeback Woods. There is a single toll road that goes through the Ridgeback Woods that is maintained by the local baron. If you step off of the woods, you're probably going to be eaten by trolls or werewolves or whatever the else they have out here. If you stay on the path, you're just going to be assaulted by other pilgrims, hoping to hand you various, trinkets or, maps to the local shrine where they'll try to sell you tickets to see the relics. You're on this road because the other end of it is a theatrical production of The Three Gnomes of Altengeld, which is the funniest comedy anyone at the university's ever seen. They were all yucking it up about it, talking about how great it was, but the players left while you guys were all down with the flu. So.
Great. So our goal is to get to the comedy production.
Yes, you've got a lot of miles to go. You gotta follow this road through the woods, gotta cross a mountain range, and then probably book passage across, a gigantic landlocked sea, so that you can reach the next production in 1 month's time. So, good luck!
Excellent.
Alright, like I said, you're crashing in a monastery. There's a couple other scruffy-looking characters, human pilgrims mostly, who are sitting eating their own porridge with no sign of pleasure whatsoever. And suddenly, the heavy-ass rotten doors to the monastery swing open, and on the other side, you see a man limping in, bleeding.
Okay.
What do you...
I don't think my characters do anything immediately. They just kind of watch.
Just kind of watch the show.
Man,
all right, the bleeding man.
This isn't their monastery. Fucking, that guy's weird. Huh.
All right, so the straw-haired man collapses to the ground. He looks like he's in his mid-30s. He's bleeding. He's shrieking, and he cries, "The birds! The birds! They followed me! They followed me!" He stands and tries to reach for some of the monks, who take a brisk step back, believing mental illness to be contagious, and believing this man to possess it. Gradually, doors open, monks start filtering out, and an actual priest with some healing ability directs the other monks to frog march this dude away to be treated. In the meantime, nobody's shut the door, and some of the other diners are looking towards it with some slight concern. What about y'all?
George the Gnome heroically volunteers to walk up to the doors and slam them shut with his incredible 13 strength.
Okay, as you do that, and as the doors are swinging shut, you see framed against the dusk sky, black splotches passing indistinctly. Not particularly in the shape of birds. You don't make it anything indistinct, but they then dip below sort of the tree line, and you see them no more. And then, of course, the doors close.
Right. That was weird.
Certainly was.
We got any more porridge?
You do have more porridge. The rest of the day passes uneventfully.
Great.
The next morning, the bells ring to awaken each of you to do your chores to stay for the day. The reason this is going to happen is that it is raining heavily outside. We're talking torrential rain.
So the road is basically a mud river at this point, I assume.
Yep, I mean, you could head out there, but I warn you, George is going to be underwater.
Phineas the Magnanimous, rather than perform his chores like the misanthrope he is, he recruits other pilgrims to his cult to get the chores to get them to do the chores for him.
You know what? I'm gonna have you roll for this one because I think this is gonna be amazing. Go ahead and roll a charisma check. That is a 20-sided die, and you want to roll under your charisma, equal to or under.
What if it's equal to my charisma plus 10?
That is a unqualified failure.
Yeah. So, like I said, unsuccessfully.
Yeah, they hear your pitch, they listen carefully, and they volunteer absolutely to do your chores without reservations. Your first chore was to make the beds. At some point, you pass through the beds and discover that, like, bags of sand and animal feces have been dumped all over all of them.
Phineas nods approvingly.
Your next job was to take care of the horses. You currently hear some shouting from the courtyard, and then hear the unmistakable sound of somebody being kicked through a door.
Phineas just looks on with an approving gaze. And he turns to Susan and says, I think I've really got something here. These guys are really receptive to my ideas.
Okay, we're going to cut to this evening, when the monks are pushing the entire party out of the door into the dwindling rainfall in the middle of the night.
All right, so after beating up Phineas and taking his share of the money, Susan, George, and Phineas decide that they basically don't have much choice but to travel through the rain and the mud. So they set out on the path. Do they have any... I don't have an inventory. Do they have any, like, torches? Or well, you know what? No, George and Susan have infravision, so they can kind of see in the dark, so they don't fucking care, and Phineas just has to kind of muddle around.
Just, like, rolling after them.
They take his torches and throw them in the mud so that he can't light them.
Fucking bullshit, guys. It's okay. He'll float. He's covered in oil.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, does that mean he'll sink?
I don't know. I'm realizing something, actually, that Phineas probably has some sort of, we'll call it a racial weakness to fire.
Oh, boy. Better hope the rain keeps up. All right, now I'm going to roll on a table here. It's actually one of my favorite tables in 2nd edition. Do you know what table that is?
The encounter table.
No, not that. In fact, there is no standardized encounter tables in 2nd edition. They encourage you to create your own.
Yeah.
No, Josh. My favorite table is Chance of Getting Hopelessly Lost.
Oh, no.
You are right to be concerned. All right, here we go. Let's count up our modifiers here. All right, so This is thick forest, so you have a 70% chance of getting lost. It's raining, so that's plus 10%. Darkness, that's another plus 70%. So we're up to 150% chance of getting hopelessly lost.
Excellent. And these are additive, of course.
Oh yeah, they're just directly additive. There's a poor trail, which is good. That gives you minus 10%, so that's 140% chance of getting hopelessly lost. And yeah, there's like signage and directions, so we'll be, that's variable percentage. We'll be nice and say that it all comes out to 95% chance of getting hopelessly lost.
Gee, how did I guess that you were going to pick a 1d20 or a critical success chance on a d20?
Ain't I?
All right. I'm just gonna roll this shit, and I'm gonna tell you that I got a 20, even though I won't. No, 14.
Damn, I was really hoping you did a critical success so that I could inform you that I had already rolled.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's
what
you
did
got
you
17 roll? Under 95, so guess what?
So I rolled
hopelessly lost.
Well, it was bound to happen.
Yeah, the crappy trail through the woods has completely failed you at this point. The signage has done you no favors. It's nighttime, it's raining, you're relying on your infravision. It's a shit show. You hear all kinds of horrible growls and gurgles, and, you know, Josh, I think, remember how I told you there was no encounter tables in 2nd edition?
Yeah.
It's very true. There's no encounter tables anywhere in the 2nd edition Dungeon Master's Guide, so I'm not going to be rolling any 2e encounter tables. You know what I got here, Josh?
You're just going to say we encounter something, aren't you?
A 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh, no! How do you even have that?
Use bookstores, motherfucker, and also you can order re-releases.
I think it would be really fun at some point to do a, like, serious, like, D&D 1 as early as we can get it campaign, because...
Oh, like back, you know, you talking like Elf as a class, old D&D?
Yeah, Elf as a class.
Oh, man, you gotta know what you're asking here. That's the raw shit. Okay, let's see, Deep Forest, I did say Deep Forest. You know what the fun thing about this encounter table is, Josh?
There's probably a lot of fun things on that encounter table.
Oh, no, not the fun things on it. The fun thing about it. But you are right. Yes.
Why don't you tell me, what is the funny thing about this? Or the fun thing?
It is not scaled to level.
What?
Yep.
Okay, what does that even mean in this case? So we're just, you ran into a beholder.
Oh, no. Oh, no, that would not happen. Beholders are on a different table.
Oh, okay. You ran into a boreal dragon or something. I don't know. What is even on a Deep Forest encounter table?
Well, you're hopelessly lost, so you're going to have plenty of opportunities to find out.
Yeah, well, just like, what's the worst thing I could encounter here? Like, what's the most...
I could tell you, but I actually won't, because monster. I'm really hoping that at some point we're just going to roll it.
Great.
Oh, okay.
This party has the offensive power of a wet noodle.
Okay, you're not as unlucky as you could have been.
Oh, well, that's not fun.
Okay. So, like I said, there's all kinds of shriekings and, like, sort of groaning noises, and suddenly you see the branches ahead of you shake and raindrops rattle off of them, as down into the brush drops an ape-like creature. He's about the size of a gorilla, but he has a long tail, because he's an ape-like creature. Okay. Off to a rollicking good start here, 2nd edition. He has short, dirty fur, but his paws and feet are stained bloody red. He opens his mouth and howls. All right. Now what we're going to do is you're going to declare actions for each of your characters.
Okay. So Susan, being somewhat savvy and wise here, attempts to communicate, holds up her hand and says, "Hello there." And then Phineas the Magnificent, or the Magnanimous, probably also the Magnificent, says, "Fuck this shit," and Leroy Jenkins at the monster immediately and tries to hit it, because that's what clerics do. Does he have a mace?
Yes.
What are my characters even wearing?
I've given you appropriate armor, and you can have any reasonable weapon.
Right. George the Gnome, seeing that shit has gone bad, also jumps in to try to prevent Phineas from, tripping on a branch or some dirt or a mote of dust or the rain, and also moves in to attack.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll initiatives for every person involved, and everybody plays out their actions in the order that they succeed in the initiative. So this is very important for situations where one character says, "I run in to attack the goblins in melee," and one character says, "I fireball the goblins."
Okay. What do I do here?
I'm handling all this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Bad news. It goes first.
Oh.
It gets 4 attacks. Okay. Hit.
Someone is dead.
All right, I'm gonna break down for you. Every single member of the party's dead. Or are they?
Do I need to save?
You smell burning punk, and hear a jubilant
band?
song, and no, punk as in like dry wood. And you hear your jubilant chant, and your characters become dimly conscious to find themselves hanging upside down from a tree branch, about 20 feet above the ground. Down there, in kind of like maybe 5 or 10 feet, there's like kind of a nest of branches and twigs and twine and rope and what looks like human tents, upon which are crouched like a dozen of these creatures, including lots of young.
I assume by human tents, you mean tents that were made by humans and not like tents made out of like human skin.
Yeah, these things are clearly crafty, but maybe not on that level.
For some reason, I went to the second one first, and then I backed up.
Well, you're not wrong to have those instincts, because down below that nest is a midden pit, where there is a whole shitload of bones, including lots of awfully human-shaped ones.
I guess we'll suspend the immediate question of why the fuck is the party not all dead right now.
Well, the real answer for that is there's actually a on death's door rule, where you do not automatically die when you go below hit points, and where you can be stabilized when you go below 0. The Sioux monsters have stabilized you to keep you alive temporarily, perhaps hazarding that you are no special risk.
So the 3 of them are hanging upside down from it, like just in a line from a tree branch, basically.
That is correct. And down below you, there's the whole tribe of Sioux monsters just sort of dancing around and like going about their business.
Right.
Some of them are making crude tools, from napping stone with stone. Some of them are feasting on what looks like a dead like deer of some kind. Juvenile deer. They're roasting bits of it in the fire before picking it out with their bare paws and eating it raw.
Okay. So Phineas opens his mouth to yell at them. Susan shuts him up by saying, "Fuck you, Phineas," and then punching him in the jaw.
You're both weak, so this has no real effect.
Yeah. But he definitely doesn't defend against it because he has a dexterity of 5. Then Susan turns to George and says, "Hey, can you talk to these dudes?"
That's a good question. No, George cannot communicate with the Sioux monsters.
Okay. What is this gnome good for?
Only communicating with small woodland creatures.
Small wood. George summon an army of butterflies or small birds or something to save them.
I can tell you if one of those is nearby.
Yeah. Is it still like night and raining, or is it like daytime?
It's nighttime,
now?
but the rain has ceased.
Okay. So it hasn't been that long since the party got wiped.
No. You're all at 1 hit point also.
Yeah. So Susan is actually just perfectly fine.
Yep, basically yes. It turns out that being slathered with greasy, like, monkey creature poultice is just Susan's ground state of health.
Yeah. What's holding them up? Are they tied to the tree?
You look up. It looks like there's some kind of cable made from twisted plant fibers, which is suspending you to a stout branch of one of these trees. Up there, you do see a few squirrels just sort of gambling about and, like, staying well out of reach of the Sioux monsters.
Okay, are we right above the partying soup monsters?
Soup monsters. Yeah, basically right above.
Okay. Like, is it, like, where is the pit in relation to this? Like, is it also basically right
directly underneath? It looks like the Sioux monsters can basically just like feed their refuse through gaps in the nest and drop it down.
Right. Okay. So Susan gets together, talks to George, says, "I got a plan here." Can Susan have like a hidden dagger or something?
Sure.
Okay, she pulls out the dagger. And basically just tells the other two to, if they can pull themselves up and like grab onto the bit of the rope that's above where it actually attaches to their legs or whatever, and she's going to cut that down, and then they're going to drop. She's going to cast Featherfall, and they'll land in the pit and hopefully be able to sneak off.
Okay. Interesting plan. Let's see how this goes down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll some dice. Okay. So again? You're gonna be drifting down. They're probably gonna see you if you just drift straight down. What was your plan for that again?
Hope that they don't.
Hope that they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they're partying. They're having a good time. They're eating dinner. They're not looking at the fridge.
Yeah, it's not impossible that you're correct. Oh, by the way, I should point out that besides your weapon, your dagger, your weapons are located in the center of the nest in kind of an impromptu treasure hoard.
Yeah. Those are probably fucked.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? You sever the ropes and cast the spell and drift slowly down. Fortunately for you, it's late at night. A lot of the tribe is kind of sleepy or busy taking care of their own business. None of the creatures actually notice. A lot of them are also blinded by the firelight that they're staring directly into. And you guys are kind of, you're kind of at the fringe of the nest, so it works out. You alight gently in the maze of bones. The forest stretches off in all directions with no clear indication of which way's which.
Okay. Is the pit in the center of the camp, or is there like a side of the pit that's just like off in the forest and we can just like run?
You can just run.
Okay, before that, George and Phineas pick up human femurs or the equivalent as primitive clubs, just so that they have something, All
right, you dig into the... Okay, when you dig into the treasure pile, you discover that it is not quite as base as you had guessed.
Okay, is it acidic instead?
Oh, why is that? Give me some.
I don't know what that means, so...
Yeah, no, give me a second. Sorry. What it means is that the Sioux monsters, not entirely able to differentiate useful goods from bits they don't need anymore, actually have some treasure in the bone pile that you discover in the moment it takes you to pick through and grab an appropriate femur. And I'm going to roll that treasure right now. Alright, so first you discover fucking nothing.
Excellent. So we find treasure that is nothing.
Yes. And you also discover a backpack, which is full of holes and extremely heavy.
Great.
Well, no, it's full of something. But, like, this might not be the moment you take to open it up and take inventory.
Right. Okay. George the gnome picks that up and slings that over his back. And the three of them wisely decide that since they all died immediately last time, they should probably get the fuck out of Dodge. Pick the side of the pit that is furthest away from the center of the camp and book it.
Sounds good to me. All right, I already rolled encounters. You get no encounters. You are...
I was kind of hoping to just have the party die immediately afterwards.
You get some distance away and check the contents of the backpack, I take it. Inside you find some very large quantity of golden coins. You've apparently discovered a backpack of 700 gold coins.
What the fuck am I going to do with 700 gold?
That's a good question. I don't know, pay for one semester?
Probably die before I get to use it at this rate.
Well, I mean... Not necessarily.
Hire someone else to go to the concert because fuck this shit and tell you about it later.
I do have some good news for you, Josh.
Yeah. Aside from the 700 gold.
Right, yes. It is now dawn and it is no longer raining. You know what that means?
Excellent. Do I need to do more encounter rolls?
Encounter rolls? Not yet. But there's another roll, isn't there?
No.
Good old COGHL. Chance of getting hopelessly lost.
God damn it.
So you're right in the thick forest now, so that's 70%. It is... Yeah, I'm going to say that you can see the mountains, so there's some landmarks. So you don't get the plus 50 for no distinguishable landmarks. It's no longer dark. There's no navigator. You've sighted the landmarks, so that's minus 15, so you're down to 55%.
Is it at least, like, clear skies so we can tell where the sun is?
No, it's overcast, so that's actually another plus 30%. Thank you for reminding me. Alright, so you have an 85% chance of getting hopelessly lost.
Great.
You rolled over 85. You find the trail again. Oh,
well,
you stagger back. You stagger back onto the path. This is like bloody, battered, haunted by visions of chattering Sioux monsters, weighted down with gold that belonged to somebody whose descendants you hope never to meet. And continue onwards with the adventure? Or do you go back with your money to civilization?
I mean, that's probably the smarter thing to do, but let's be honest, Rutskarn, are these smart people?
They are. Alright, Josh, you want to call it there for tonight?
Yeah, that was certainly a thing that happened.
Alright, save those characters.
Yeah, I've got it saved in a text file, dd2caresheet.txt.
I want to... All right, before we go out here, I want to give two quick disclaimers. Number one, this is not in every respect a typical session of Dungeons & Dragons. Generally, there's much less cruel random odds and much more having an interesting story. And also, I've been playing, usually there's a little more like back and forth and texture and building scenes. This is just Josh and I kind of screwing around here.
Yeah. That is kind of the idea. But hey, on the other hand, our party got kicked out of a monastery, lost in a forest, ran into what level was that monster, by the way?
There's no encounter levels, but I can look up how much experience it's worth.
Yeah.
Got your ass ungraciously kicked.
Yeah, everybody died, and then somehow managed to escape from the clutches of death with a quest reward worth of gold, and managed to make it back to the path. Like, that is far better than I expected this party to go.
All right, not to add insult to injury, but it's worth only 650 experience. That's not even enough for one person to level up at this point. This is practically a fair encounter, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, was there a chance of me actually beating it, provided that it did not immediately kill everyone?
Let's see. It has an average of like 50 hit points.
50 hit points.
No, I'm sorry. It has an average of like 25 hit points. It has an armor class of 6, which means that your fighter hits it on average on a roll of about like 13.
Yeah. Phineas. Can Phineas even hit it at all?
Yeah.
Does it require a crit?
No. Actually, that's sort of an important point. Dexterity only affects ranged weapons attacks, and even then, in your case,
right.
only barely.
Affected... I should give him a bow just to make it like the worst character. You can't use a bow as a cleric, but give him a sling.
All right, well, that's all for the adventures of George, Susan, and Phineas. We'll return next time and find out what is up with those weird birds and how many of your characters can I kill with them.
Oh yeah, the plot hook where we were in an Alfred Hitchcock movie for the first 5 minutes.
Stay tuned.